Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.
Yes, hello everyone and welcome to Michael Sillion and Captain Future in this Best for the World broadcast. I'm going to go over our future navigation model that keeps evolving. So I'm going to explain to you how do you navigate an event-driven learning society and understand collective value creation. That is, what is a society and what is an economy. So I'm going to go over a brief overview of everything. This is a very short presentation today. It's not the 2-hour version, it's the 45-minute version. So what is society and value creation is the first thing we go over. Then we're going to go over what is an event-driven learning society. So that is, why does things happen at all in society or on Earth or in the universe? And then I'm going to touch upon what is an economy and what is in a cost. And then we're going to go into our specific framework. How do you navigate all of this? How do you make sense and make things happen? Yes, so bear with me. It's going to go fairly quickly today. So our framework for future navigation consists of 4 activities you can do on any place or in any organization or any country or any city. And they're all connected. So you can see the 4 spiral arms with the 4 color circles, and the 4 circles are on every spiral, so they're not 4 separate activities. They're always interconnected. And there are eventification, how do you navigate a specific end or make it happen? And journeyfication, how do you connect events, places and narratives for time? And then you have unification weaving, how do you connect everything together in a place or in a situation. And then we have enablefication. How do you enable for the things you want to happen, and how do you enable against the things you don't want to happen? So that's the plan. So what is a society then? The simplest explanation I have come across is society is our way for organizing collective value creation and consumption. And you see some of my slides have dual language in Swedish here, so don't worry of that if you're not Swedish speaking. But all of human history is a series of events. So this is like everything in the universe is events, from the small chemical reaction that take place billions at a time in a small local area inside your body, to the creation of solar system and galaxies. So everything is an event, but we're going to focus on human size scale and human time scale to make sense of it, because otherwise it becomes very confusing. An event can create, consume, destroy and transfer or a mixed value. So we're going to come back to that. And all events are stringed together over time in direct or indirect journeys that we call causality. Or when they're indirect, we will develop why are some events indirect. All events are connected. They're not singular events. They take place in a system or in a network. And this is true for any scale, for an individual, for a group, for a place, or for a narrative. So. And the most interesting part is if this has happened before. All life has done this before us, but we now have the very learning ability to notice them and affect the events on a scale that most animals or plants can't do. And we can enable for them and against them. And all living agents recently agency artifact use narrative instruction to make events happening. So I'm going to come back to all of this. This is a sum up what we're going to talk about. And all this gives rise to patterns and system of events. So we can see events reoccurring, and we can explain why they, and know why they are coming up. So we can predict events through because they're systemic and they're in patterns. And the learning part, this is to adjust the events to make new, better events or worse events, depending on what your agenda is. So that is what the learning society is. If you're not with me, you have to watch this again, because it will all make sense after I've come to the later parts. No time for questions today. So what is value creation? Value is a very low, like society is a very broad term as well. The things we need and the things we want, and they're not separate. So we need food, but we want good tasting food. But sometimes we want things that we don't need, and that's what I'm going to come to. So every event has the opportunity to create value, to transform, upgrade, remix, transport, market, or facilitate value. And almost all events consumes some value. Most events consume energy to happen. For something to change in the universe, we need energy. So all events consume energy in some form, or exhaust the resource that go back. And quite often an event also destroys value or make it lost for a long period of time or forever. So what is the future navigation? How do you navigate all what I said? So we take what is a learning system. I and many argues that the entire galaxy has been learning from the beginning. So we learn to make things like solar systems and heavier elements, and we used supernovas to do that. They were not around from the beginning, but the galaxy learned how to make planets like Earth, full of iron, that have a magnetic core that enables life. So that was not around. For the first types of planets did not have an iron core, because there was no iron in the universe. And then on that planet, then life appeared, and life learned through evolution. They propagated the DNA to the next generation, and the changes that worked were followed, and the changes that didn't work didn't usually follow. So evolution happened for a learning process as well there. But this is very slow, so life has to die off and give rise to the next generation for any learning to take place, almost. Not entirely true, but something like that. But then came like cognitive animals, like the mammal apes, and then finally humans, that could learn through a lifetime and transfer that learning outside DNA. So we learned our young from experience, and they can observe and stuff like that. So that's the learning society we have today, and we have taken that to a whole new level. And the amount of learning in the society accelerating as we know more and more about us and the universe through science. So what is an event? From the beginning, I said there was artifacts in the universe, planets and solar systems and moons and asteroids and all that. And on the planet there were mountains and sometimes seas of elements. And an event took place when an energy moved something. So the laws of physics were very present for all the events in the universe before life. And they gave rise to system and patterns. So we now know that many solar systems are not exactly the same, but they are structured the same. So they have planets and asteroids and comets and stuff like ours has. So there are lots of system and patterns. And of course that was the learning in the universe. I talked about that. So we did learn to make iron for a magnetic core, and a multi-magnetic core for a planet to Earth to actually support life. And then we had the living agency. But they didn't act on the laws of physics directly. They used something else that we called agency. They have instructions how to do, behave and move. They didn't use gravity, so they can move uphill in a way that the rock can't. And this agency is all based on something I called narratives. So inside our head we have a narrator, loosely described, someone who decides for us what we would call free will in human cases, but in most lower form lives, it's not what we would call free will. But there is someone who takes from all the available options and make a decision, the narrator. And all the narratives, all the instructions are what it has to choose from. Mostly DNA and signals from the environment. And then we come to the next form of energy. There's a lot of low energy types of things in the universe, like light. Light doesn't move much, but we as animals and plants can interpret light as a signal, and then when that interpretation, that gives rise to an event. So before us, light didn't move much, but now a light signal can signal you to move at a stoplight or something like that. That's a simple explanation. So when the light turns green, you start moving, or you press your pedal on your car and it starts moving. So the signal made it happen in an indirect way. And that means that we have to observe the signals, and there's a transmission, usually light or sound or vibration, or sometimes a mechanical transmitter of the signal that has to be interpreted to do something. Yes, and what is a narrative then? We had a narrative here, and so narratives is all the instructions, all the agency does that gives rise to, in our case, human behavior, from DNA, nervous system, brains, habits, to all our culture, language, all our training growing up, all our stories, myths, all our culture, and all our ideologies that we now we have a political system based on ideology. Sorry. Ideologies. And they're like instructions how to manage and rule a society or a country or a company and stuff like that. But there's so much more. Today we're very, very based on money. Money and budgets and bookkeeping makes our decisions for us. And we think this is the natural way. But there's nothing natural of this. They're all interconnected with the rest of the things in this list. I go through this list in my other presentation. I will link to that if you want a longer walkthrough of all of this, but for now you can explore that everything that gives rise to what you do today, this hour, this week, this year, is a narrative, and it's all interconnected. It's not just inside you. Most of it are now outside of you, but there are instructions. When you get a red light signal, you know what that means, and you know that it's time to stop. And when you get a green light signal, you know what that means, time to move, usually. But it's all contextual as well. So now that we have all this, we also constructed what we called complex artifacts that have a behavior on their own. We started making machines, and now we make a more computer-driven and artificial intelligence-driven machines that can make events happen on their own by interpreting a signal. We have like machines today for a long time that if you pull a lever, it does something. And that's a signal to the machine. So now we have complex artifacts that can make events happen as well, in a way that they require a type of narrative as well. They're not just asteroids and comets and stuff like that. Or a river. A river does one thing, it flows downstream. But a complex artifact a boat can actually go upstream in a river. And this, of course, gives rise to an enormous ecosystem of learning networks of agents, artifacts, vessels, narratives, events, and arenas. Some call them hyper-objects and hyper-agents, and I've added hyper-narratives to this theory. So if you want to delve deeper into this, we can do this for hours or weeks as well. But this is how a society works. It's full of events and how they're triggered, usually now by the laws of physics and in combination with our human-created narratives. So what do we do? We are a learning animal in a society. So what of all these types of narratives gives rise to our human behavior? And of course, we are a learning animal. So we usually did what we did yesterday or last week or last year in this situation. So we have learned behavioral patterns. And they're very practical, because you don't have to learn how to brush your teeth or drink milk or put on your clothes or drive a car every day. You just know it by habit. So it's a very useful. We're extremely habitual, and that's very useful. But sometimes it will bite us in the back. We are social animals. We do as people around us do. We have mimicry, norms, conformity, and culture. So like mirror neurons, we can like mimic someone, but we also do what the culture says us to do. So in this situation, you're supposed to do that. But we also do as we're told, and that's why we have things like language and other symbols to signal what to do. And there's the authoritarian type of signal, like a parent, a boss, a dictator, a rule or law that forces you have to do this or else. Or it can be someone we trust, a trust built, like a teacher code, a family or a friend, a mentor, or a role model or something like that. We look up to them and we imitate their behavior. And we took that to a new whole level when we created something called celebrities. That is not just a local inspiration in the village, but someone you have never met. But thanks to narratives in media, like radio, TV, and books and stuff like that, we can look up to someone we haven't met or someone who lived a long time ago, and we can imitate their behavior as well, a thinker or a role model. Or a narrative itself, like we are so narrative focused that so a story inside of me, a song or a movie or just something that resonates with you guides your action towards something mundane like ordinary events, or something extraordinary, life-changing events. You're moving to a new town, starting a new job, starting a new education for your new career or something like that, and that could be like a narrative itself. It's something you just feel in your bone you have to do. But we also have this extraordinary ability to play and experience and try out and do things that we have never done before or no one has ever done before. And that's how we progress our learning society forward. We can actually experiment and try things that we don't know have been done before. Even someone else on the other side of the earth has done it, or absolutely no one had done it before. Or they're just new to us. We have never seen anything in our local village or in our local bubble to do it, and we just do it. So that's why things happen. So if you're not with me so far, this will make much more sense the second time you watch this, because I've of course iterated how to narrate this presentation for you in a way that makes sense over time. But it's very hard because you have to know some things to understand another. So I really recommend watching this a second time if you want to know what's going on in my presentation. And I have a studio man here as well. He's listening. I don't know if he understands anything. I doubt that. Yeah. So what is an economy then? Many people have things like economy is money. No, it's not. An economy is the resources we have to play with and how to manage them and take care of them. So on the earth, we have two things. We have energy that comes from outside the earth. The earth doesn't generate much energy more than the thermal energy inside it itself, but most of it comes from the sun, in direct solar light or in ancient solar light, like fossil solar light, or even more before that, things that wasn't created by our sun but another sun, like uranium and plutonium and things like that. And we also have the biosphere, the thin layer on top of this molten core. We cannot live inside the molten core, and we cannot live outside the thin atmosphere. So in this thin atmosphere we have the biosphere, and this is the two primary resources on Earth. It's not money. This is an economy. If you boil it down to two things, you need energy to things to move, things inside the biosphere, like grow life or walk around, or just make rain to flow down in a river, so that the water cycle keeps reappearing, creating clouds and rain and rivers and lakes and sea, and then all over again. But we animals, we added a third resource that we call narrative capital. This is something that wasn't around before life. The rivers were here, but not and but not narrative. Narrative is something that life created, and we human has taken to the next level. So we're going to focus on the human level of narrative here. So I mentioned energy. There's the direct solar energy that we have take in. Usually plant photosynthesis stores energy that we can access through what we call food, like we eat each other. Or we can directly now transform solar energy from wind, water, and solar rays into direct electric energy as well. Then we have what we call old fossil solar energy, oil, coal, and fossil gas. And then we have what ancient solar energy, like nuclear energy, that wasn't created by our sun, but the sun before us that went supernova and created our solar system. So we got that uranium from that sun, not our sun. So here it is. We will keep adding things then. So what is the next level here? There's the human capital. This is all the things that we know how to do to create our society. So this is a resource that we have created and that we give to the next generation, or sometimes experiment and invent new. If you take like things that we have done, especially during the 19th century, you take like music skills, movie skills, healthcare skills, science skills, and all that, all the competences we have created during the last 100, 200, 300 years, there weren't around much of them before. So we have added to the pool of human capital in a way that is so much that one human cannot oversee the amount of skills there are on planet Earth today. There are so many, so we don't. Even if we tried, we wouldn't know of all of them because it takes so much time. And that also gives rise to, as we are human, we have what we call social capital, and that is how we, like I said, all value creation comes from us having a society. We can't do anything alone. We have to have someone else to do it with us or for us. So social capital is the relationship between all the locals and all the foreign humans. And for most of our time, it was the local hunter tribe or the local village that was most of our social capital. But now, thanks to the digital area and internet, we can have social capitals all over the world, people we never met, and they're still friends and contributing. And you see the yellow box here. Many of these reasons have negative things as well. I haven't added them on everyone, but here is very important to understand that there's negative social capital. People behaving badly or treating other people like disrupting what we call good human behavior and bad behavior. And that's a trainable skill and resource in itself. We can increase the amount of bad social capital in society by making people behave bad against each other and train them to do it. And then we have what I will expand into two groups. It's called entangled capital or governing capital. How do we govern all our systems that create value? Today we have different kinds of political systems to do that, or political ideologies, or we have company structures or family structures. Even a family uses entangled capital to make use of our time and resources in a family. So one part of this is what we call power, violence, and political capital. Power capital is the ability to decide over others, either willingly or unwillingly. We can force people to do things, or we can inspire them to do things, or order them. And we also have what we call violence capital, something that even very prominent even today, because we have increased our violent capital from the fist and the spear and the knife to like carriers and air forces, armies and navies and stuff like that. That is capable of so much violence. But on an ordinary scale, we also have like most states have violence monopoly. We have a police force that is the only one allowed to make local violence in our society. The army is usually not that. But in some country, the army is also part of the local violence capital. And we have political capital. That it's not just, when you say political, you think of the class political that get voted for and work with this. But political capital is everywhere, in a company, in a family, in a community, in a board game group. Someone decides what to do. We vote for it, or someone just decide. And then we had the other part of the entangled capital we call coordination capital, caring, wisdom, markets, logistic capital. That is like, how do we organize value creation? We care. We have markets has been a fantastic type of capital to organize value creation, because if we know what people want, we can supply it to them. And if someone doesn't want something, it will be not used. So we have logistics chains to transport and transform value all over the earth now. And we also have like the caring, how do we give resources to them who need it, like healthcare or a housing or something, and stuff like that. And that's part of the human and social capital as well. Has been along for around very long time. Everyone doesn't make everything for themselves, but not everything is buyable at the market. We use other caring mechanics to give it to people. And then we come to the important, very important thing, the things people are. When you say economy, you think of currency, money, and financial capital. And the things that we don't even mention, ownership capital, is so prominent. So we think we live in a democracy when everyone has one vote here in Sweden or some of the Western democracies here, but we don't account for what we call ownership capital then, because owning things gets a lot more votes than just your one political vote every 3, 4 or 5 years. And we seldom talk about that. There's some really interesting podcasts I can direct you to if you want to explore what ownership capital is in a democracy, because we don't have an even system in a democracy, because the more you own, the more you have to say. But exploring money, currency, and financial capital is very interesting, and most people don't know what. Even if we give most of our life in this pursuit or the coordination of money, we don't know what money is, because money has changed over the years, and now it's something else that it was 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Money is so completely different today. And in that essence, we have to know what modern monetary theory is and explore that. There was a survey, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, where we asked some politicians, and over 80% of all politicians didn't know how modern money works. And that's crazy in itself. So that's it, that. And then we have the most interesting part, what we call biological capital. That is all the living things on Earth. The soil, nature, like living ocean, and the biological capital in the ocean, not the water. But and we also count like ancient biological capital that got buried. That is coal, oil, and fossil gas. That's also biological capital. And most of biological capital carry energy from the sun. So we eat plants or meat or stuff like that to get the energy from it, because it was usually transferred from the sun. Yes, and then we have the mineral capital, the non-biological capital, all the things that's in the earth crust, or we have to dig deep to get, or refine to get, because we have discovered new materials and new minerals and new metals that we didn't know about before, and now we know how to make use of them, or alloys and stuff like that. And the science around mineral capital is humongous. And I'm not an expert, so I won't touch much upon it, but we have to understand that this is the non-living material, or that has never lived. Some biological capital live and some has lived. Oh, sorry. Then we have structural capital, things we make from mineral capital and biological capital. All the things we make from wood and stone and plastic and stuff like that. All the artifacts we have ever made. And most of them are very useful for us. Some of them we make too much of. We don't make them to be useful for us. We just make them because we want to access financial capital. We use narrative capital to sell things we don't need and produce things we don't need to get access to financial capital. And this is a vicious cycle that's now over-consuming much of the resources here on Earth. And that's why I even have produced more and more what we call toxic structural capital. We have engineered and made poison that wasn't on the earth crust before, that is now very lethal, PFAS and other microplastic in the ocean, a lot of molecules that we have engineered, and that's very poisonous in the long run for the biosphere and us. Yes, now we go back from the other side of human capital. What we talk a lot about today, we have seen like Christian Harris documentary maybe or something like that, we call attention capital. For a very long time, this is a very real resource that we add to the free original one we call time. Time is a resource we can manage. It's what we got to play with. But time in itself is not, it's like linear, but how you use the time we can divide into focus and attention. Because a simple example is I can do my dishes on autopilot, spending my time on the dishes, but at the same time I can listen to either an interesting book that I use for my education or nonsense as well. I mean, I will come back to that. But as I focus on my what I'm listening to, I'm also spending my time doing the dishes. So it's combined time. And that is the focus part. Do I focus on the dishes or do I focus on how I listen? Sometimes when you listen to something, you start focusing on what you're actually doing with your hand instead, and you haven't listened for 10 minutes and you have to go back. So this is a complex things. It's not as simple as they make out in the Tristan Harris thing, but it's very important today because we're so distracted by our phones and social media today. So we have to talk about attention capital in a much broader sense. So it's very important. Sorry, pressed the wrong button again. And then we have what I'm very interested in itself, we call flow state capital and meaning capital. So meaning is what do we give meaning to our lives? What is meaningful? And this is like something we have to have a really serious conversation of, because many people have lost that today. They feel their lives are meaningful. And very connected to that is what we call flow states. We know that when you go into flow, you're more productive, you're more engaged, you're more happy. And it can be the two types of flow states. The high energy, when you do sports or dancing or raving, it becomes very prominent that you have to access this. If you follow the extreme sports scene in any case, like on snow or on wheels or parkour and stuff like that, you can see that thanks to flow state, they can explore the tricks that we thought humanly impossible 5 years ago, and the tricks they did 5 years ago was impossible 10 years ago. And thanks to this, we have elevated human capability to do things we didn't think were humanly capable before. So this is a very interesting field as well, and it is something we seldom talk about today. And when we talk about our global economy, we don't mention flow state at all. I watched the Olympics, Winter Olympics now, and it was clear that many of the elites in the Olympics or the teams went into flow states sometimes or all the time during their exercise for the sport. But not once did I heard any report even mentioning what the importance of flow state in what they did. Yes, that's my rant on that. Sorry, wrong picture. I have to put my finger on the wrong hair. And then we have something very interesting that comes back to the narrative capital. All the information, knowledge and stories we have created and collected so far as humanity, most of them from the beginning was oral and changed over time, and we didn't have any physical artifact to store them. But now we have like physical artifacts and even digital artifacts that store so much stories and information and knowledge that it is mind-blowing. The amount of content we create today is staggering. No one can watch it all, not even maybe there is even more for AI to watch and camp through. And one part of this is very extra important, that is what we call scientific capital, the things that we through this scientific method can prove to be true. Most of our stories are just that information. Some of them make sense, some of them don't make sense, but the scientific capital is vetted for. This is something that we at the moment believe to be true. So it's very important, because we live in a world that that is sometimes very anti-science. Like authoritarian leaders are against science, even they use the tools of science to govern and have power, like advanced weaponry were only possible through science, but they also denounce the very science that made the weapons they use to rule over us. Very interesting paradox. And the last part of this type of meaning, if you take attention, meaning, and information capital, we have all of this narrative is what we can divide into this signal and noise character, like things we can make sense of and things that we can't make sense of. And we already had the negative part of that we call bullshit, that is like harmful harmful signals, the things that make us become worse or do bad things, depending on what that is. But we now know that there is a lot of narratives that make us overconsume the biosphere, and that is what we call bad signals or bullshit. So this is the complete overview of what an economy is, much more than financial and money capital. And to mention two extra thing here, if you talk about energy, there's a very interesting definition of that called exergy capital. That there's a lot of solar rays hitting the earth every second, but we can't use them all. So exergy capital is the actual things, energy that we can transform into useful things, like moving stuff around. And we also created a lot of toxics and waste capital. If you can see all the yellow spots here, like in some of the capitals, there are yellow boxes, and they come to bed the things we don't need, and that they are starting to add up all over the world today. So we have to actually talk about all the things that we don't want in the biosphere that collecting up, both in physical sense and in narrative sense. Whew. How are we doing for time? 10 more minutes. This is not going to be the whole presentation, I think. Yes, and I'm going to talk for something that people usually talk about daily. We talk about costs, so, and usually related to money. But for society as a whole, money is seldom or never a cost. A cost is when something gets consumed, spent, exhausted, destroyed, or lost in time. And for money, it never gets destroyed. It just circles around. It changes hand unless you bury it in a chest beneath the ground for 1,000 years or 100 years or something like that. The money is still around. So the society, a closed society, nothing costs money. But if you take as a country or a city or something like that, most of the things in that city doesn't cost money. It just circle around. It comes back into the budget next year. And that's so confusing to many people, because they said, we can't do that because it costs money. It depends on what you do. If the money never leaves the city or the country, it doesn't cost the country money. And if you can get your head around that, we can make entirely different kinds of budgets when we say something's going to cost this much, this many millions. If you read me in this, you start to see society very different. What does most of the cost in society today are energy, because energy is never lost in the universe, but it's lost to us. It's not exor capital anymore. We can't use it after we consume the energy. It's not accessible to us anymore. And of course, we have time. We don't get time back in the sense we live society today. When you spend time on something, if a talented people make a bomb or a talented people develops a new vaccine, the time is spent, but it's spent differently. And money is a completely today narrative currency. Most of it is digital. You have never seen it. You have never seen your money. They're not physical anymore even. So there's completely made up, and there's a lot of people making more made up money and showing up at the bank says, now I own $15 billion and you own $1,000 on your bank account, but my money is much bigger than yours. But of course, it's still a very useful innovation if we use it right, because we measure everything in money, we have to start almost everything, but not the things we take for granted or take for free. We don't pay for the fish we fish out of the ocean. We don't pay for the water we drink, we take up, and we own the land. The land itself should own its resources. So if you want to dig up iron ore, you have to pay for it to an iron fund. So if you use money correctly, we can maybe use it for a while longer in that essence. If you start paying for everything, and even paying for all the external costs and all the pollution and the destruction we make, if there's a bill for everything we destroy, money would function much more better. But we're still obsessed with money. That's all I'm gonna do for now. And for the last part here, I'm gonna touch upon the framework that I mentioned at the beginning. So it all makes sense the second time you watch this. So we have this framework where how do you govern or make sense or navigate a world? I talked about eventification. So everything is an event, cause and effect, cosmic events, narrative events that are complex. If you're very interested in this, Dave Snowden has his Cynefin framework and teaching about the difference between simple, complicated, complex and chaotic events. It's very interesting in itself. I won't go deep into it, but there's something you really have to explore if you want to understand systems and society, how to understand what type of event is. And of course I will do teachings and courses in this if you're interested in how to navigate what we call eventification. How do you make any type of event better or more good for you or good for society, or less bad? And the other part of this navigation tool is what we call Journeyfication. So everything is connected through time or causality. Every place, every arena, vessel and narrative affect each other. But your life is a journey. The house I'm sitting now has a journey. I'm not here all the time, but the house is still here. So it has a separate journey from me. But sometimes when I visit Stellan, it overlaps. Then I'm in the house. And a narrative has a journey, a behavioral pattern or a story or a song or anything has been around for a long time or a short time, and sometimes they're forgotten. Their journey has ended. So you have to start understanding this, and if you take it on a human and a life scale, we call that pathing literacy. How do you understand the life path of all the humans, and how do you make the right people meet at the right time? And that's when we come back to what we call unification and weaving, the third part here. How do you make sure that the right people interact at the right company, in the right family, in the right event, in the right local establishment to make value for society? And if you understand how to weave all these threads together through pathing literacy and eventification and journeyfication, the society will become much more clear to you how things work and how to navigate all the flows, value creating flows, and all the things that are happening in society. And the fourth part of this is of course enablefication. So we can observe all the types of events and journeys and networks we have in our society, and we can enable for them or against them. The classical thing of enabling against an event is pass a law or make a policy. You're not allowed to do that, or else. And the positive way of enabling things is to help them do it, facilitate it, order it. Like I will make a contract to a company organization and say, we want to buy 10 moon rockets from you. Then you're enabling them to make 10 moon rockets because they weren't going to make them before they had an order and stuff like that. So that's the two very simple example, but enablefication is so much more complex and deeper than that. But you can say things we want more of, we want to enable for, and things we want less of, we want to enable against. So if you're very interested in this, I can give complete workshops and courses how to navigate all types of events you want to happen in your company, your organization, your institution, your city, or even your family and your network, close networks of friends and or entrepreneurs or something like that. To understand all of this, it comes together to the complete picture of what we call future navigation here in society. So there you are. And when we made this framework, we started with this, and nothing made sense because people didn't understand all the things I've talked about before. That's why I encourage you to watch this a second time to understand how it all fits together. And this is, of course, the 45-minute version of a very long education or lecture series on how to navigate society. But it's a tidbit and a very special insight into how my mind works around this. And I've watched a lot of content, read a lot of books, and watched a lot of lectures around society, and no one is even close to come to my type of perspective of society. That's why I'm so excited about this, because I think I'm onto something. Yes, thank you for staying with me. I'm gonna end my session here shortly today. Thank you.
We are creating the world we're now living in. We are competing in. We are repeating in. We are believing in. It's time for us to shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.